We must understand true economy if we are to have it. What kind of currency, then, will serve us? While we have seen how subvertible currencies pave the way for exploitation, we know that only an immutable currency serves just trade, at least because if at any time any just result of commerce is represented by circulation, then only an immutable currency preserves that just state. An economy which serves us in all respects, then, embodies an immutable medium of exchange, the volume and life cycle of which represent all conceivable industry at minimal cost and without impediment. There are reasons, then, why veritable monetary thesis is beyond usual reach. No formal proofs or theorems whatever belong to exploitation, and obviously because actual science would only expose the underlying purpose. Thus, exploitation is bereft of formal proof and theorem, can be advocated only by evasion, and only prevails because no self-ruling populace embraces true monetary science to assert its right to true economy. Various monetary experiments have failed because there is one and one only veritable prescription for an immutable currency, solving all categoric irregularities, sustaining just trade forever and in every case, in any possible volume of industry. Our Constitution is representative of the failures to accomplish these purposes, in part because it is not even a sufficient definition of a monetary system. It merely prescribes units, and to these it implicitly cements the great fault of limiting the volume of units to a finite volume of precious metal existing regularly in great disproportion to the industry we would require the circulation to represent. It is mathematically impossible, then, for the purported gold standard to give consistent value to the currency or to sustain industry potentially requiring far greater circulations. This only imposes a fabulously and redundantly expensive circulation upon us, the very faults of which deny us the capacities and stability which industry and just trade require. Even present history is a record of these faults. Nothing could be more mistaken, furthermore, than to think this costliness is somehow a virtue. The very idea of tokenizing wealth tells us we must represent far vaster things coming into and out of existence as a fixed circulation can neither sustain or represent. A given media only prevents representation to whatever degree it is expensive and to whatever degree its volume cannot represent potential industry. Neither can gold arrest or avert the consequences of multiplication of debt by interest. And so, if a gold standard may commingle with interest, usury will dispossess us of gold just as it does of our industry. The Constitution, then, not only fails to account for these shortcomings, it imposes them upon us. What properties, then, will sustain immutable representation in a currency? The only qualities which make a circulation immutable are proportion and commitment. That is, only a circulation which maintains consistent proportions to the remaining value of all represented property, together with commitments to redeem the currency in that value, makes its representation immutable. This is not by fixing the value of the currency to some other thing. It is only by fixing value to the represented thing in a commitment to redeem the representative circulation. Thus, the necessary commitment and token can and best exist in the most available, inexpensive media. What is the necessary volume of circulation, and how do we maintain what we are to understand is the necessary volume? The circulation must always represent the sum and state of production, or someone at least will have been deprived of just reward for production, and it will be impossible to exchange all production all at once. Representation and commitment thus involve paying the currency out of circulation as respective production is consumed or depreciated. Consumption and payment, therefore, must be conceived in terms of expiration of the respective property's lifespan. Thus, a perfected economy provides for us to pay for each other's production as we consume of it, with no more than whatever we determine to be sufficiently equal or justified measures of our own production. To perfect economy, therefore, is to restore the people's right to issue their promises to pay, free of exploitation or interest. The resultant debts are instead paid off at a substantially diminished rate of consumption or depreciation, with equity always being convertible into circulation. All by itself, then, this obligatory schedule of payment maintains a circulation which at all times and cases is equal to the remaining value of all wealth. Thus, inflation and deflation are eradicated without even a need for regulation. By eradicating interest and a necessary schedule of payment, we solve irreversible multiplication of debt, terminal debt, and all the artificial escalation of difficulty and injustice all along the way. Because virtually limitless and costless media serve these purposes, we sustain any desirable magnitude of industry without cost or regulation, and the cost of production is only equal production. Artificial multiplication of indebtedness does not perpetually drive costs upward or dedicate ever more of the circulation to servicing debt. All debts can always be repaid by the circulation, and a perpetual equivalence of remaining circulation, remaining value, and remaining debt make the value of the circulation immutable throughout its lifespan. The life cycle and volume of property and circulation, therefore, are synchronized. How do we transform present systems into mathematically perfected economy? To establish sustainability and to repair the present damages, we transform present conditions into those we would now exist in if we had benefited from true economy all the while. This means refinancing all debt under mathematically perfected economy and crediting all previous payments against interest to principal, with this itself dramatically reducing not only the existent sum of debt, but the costs of servicing debt to a minute fraction of present stress. To dispense with unsustainable, broken social programs, and to sustain ourselves after retirement as we naturally would, we must further restore to the accounts of the people what they would have been able to save under mathematically perfected economy had they not been robbed by unassented exploitation.